A woman who refused to be defined by her past. Let me begin with the question that deserves your full attention. Who told you that your past has the final say over your future? Somewhere along the way, many women are quietly handed an invisible label by society, by circumstances, sometimes even by their own families, that says, "This is who you are because of what happened to you." Today, I want to challenge that belief through the story and spirit of a woman who refused to accept that sentence, a woman who understood one powerful truth. The past may explain you, but it does not get to define you. She did not begin her journey with applause or encouragement. Her story did not open with privilege, ease, or perfect choices. It opened with mistakes, setbacks, and moments she would rather forget. There were chapters written in pain, chapters where she was judged for decisions made under pressure, blamed for circumstances she did not fully control, and underestimated because of where she came from. Many people looked at her history and decided they already knew her ending. But here is the first hook you must remember. The loudest opinions about your life often come from people who will never walk your path. This woman carried memories that tried to weigh her down, failures that whispered, "You're not capable," regrets that murmured, "It's too late now," and voices, both external and internal, that insisted she stay exactly where she was. But instead of allowing her past to become a prison, she turned it into a classroom. She asked herself a question that changed everything. What if this pain is not here to punish me, but to prepare me? That shift in thinking became her turning point. As a stories expert, I have seen this pattern again and again. Brave women are not those who never fall. They are the ones who fall, feel the shame, face the fear, and still choose to rise. This woman did not wake up one day suddenly confident and fearless. No. Her courage was built quietly, moment by moment. Each day she chose responsibility over excuses, growth over comfort, progress over perfection. And that choice, repeated consistently, rewrote her identity. There were days she doubted herself, days when the past knocked loudly on her door, reminding her of who she used to be. But here is another truth worth holding on to. You are not obligated to be the same person you were 5 years ago, 1 year ago, or even yesterday. This woman understood that healing is not erasing the past. It is refusing to live there. She learned from it, respected the lessons, and then stepped forward with intention. What made her transformation powerful was not that she became flawless, but that she became honest. Honest about her wounds, honest about her fears, honest about her desire to grow. She stopped explaining herself to people committed to misunderstanding her. She stopped shrinking to make others comfortable. And most importantly, she stopped asking for permission to become more. That is a moment every brave woman must reach. The moment she realizes that her life does not require approval to have value. Her past included labels, but she chose new language. Where others said broken, she said becoming. Where others said failure, she said foundation. Where others said damaged, she said developed. And slowly, the world around her had no choice but to adjust to the strength she embodied. Let this be clear. When a woman changes how she sees herself, the entire narrative shifts. She became a living reminder that resilience is not loud. It does not always announce itself. Sometimes it looks like getting up when no one is watching. Sometimes it looks like choosing discipline over drama. Sometimes it looks like saying no to what hurts, even when it feels familiar. And sometimes it looks like daring to dream again after disappointment tried to convince you it was useless. To anyone listening who feels trapped by their history, hear this carefully. Your past does not disqualify you. It equips you. The things that tried to break you can become the very things that build your strength, sharpen your wisdom, and deepen your compassion. This woman's life proves that you do not need a perfect background to create a powerful future. You need clarity, courage, and commitment. A brave woman does not erase her past, deny it, or pretend it never existed. She stands in front of it with honesty and courage, understanding that avoiding the truth only gives it more power. Here is the first hook you must grasp. The past becomes dangerous only when it remains unexamined. She knows that facing her past is not weakness, it is leadership over her own life. Every mistake, every failure, every painful chapter is acknowledged not with shame, but with awareness. She allows herself to say, yes, this happened, without letting those moments decide who she must remain. What sets her apart is not that she had fewer scars, but that she refused to let those scars speak louder than her potential. Many women carry their history like a sentence, believing that what they went through is proof of what they deserve. She rejected that lie. Instead of allowing guilt to paralyze her or regret to define her identity, she treated her past as information, not a life sentence. This is where real strength shows up, when a woman stops asking the past for permission to move forward. She understands that reflection is useful, but residence is optional. There were moments when memories tried to pull her backward, reminding her of who she once was, what she lost, or what went wrong. But she learned an essential truth. Growth begins the moment you stop arguing with what was and start deciding what will be. She took responsibility where it was needed, released what no longer served her, and forgave herself even when others refused to. That self-forgiveness became a quiet revolution. It allowed her to move without carrying the heavy armor of self-blame. As a stories expert, I have seen that brave women do not allow their past to become a permanent identity. They understand that life is lived forward, not backward. She stopped introducing herself through her wounds and started showing up through her values. Discipline replaced excuses. Self-awareness replaced denial. Purpose replaced fear. She did not rush the process or demand instant transformation. Instead, she committed to progress, trusting that clarity comes to those who keep walking. The most powerful shift happened internally. She no longer saw her past as something chasing her, but as something behind her. It had lessons, not authority. It had memories, not control. And once she claimed that perspective, everything changed. Her confidence became grounded, her decisions became intentional, and her future opened up. This is the mark of a truly brave woman, not one who forgets her past, but one who faces it fully and then chooses to step beyond it. A brave woman understands something most people miss. Pain is not the enemy, wasted pain is. The moment hardship enters her life, she faces a defining choice: to allow suffering to harden her or to let it sharpen her. Here is the hook that changes everything. The very experience that tried to break her often carries the exact lesson she needs to rise. She does not romanticize her struggles, but she refuses to see them as meaningless. Instead, she searches for insight, knowing that purpose is often hidden inside discomfort. What once left her exhausted, disappointed, or discouraged slowly becomes the source of her strength. She reflects on what hurt her and asks deeper questions. What did this teach me about boundaries, about resilience, about my own capacity to survive? Through this process, pain stops being a burden and starts becoming direction. She no longer defines herself by what she lost, but by what she gained in wisdom, clarity, and emotional maturity. This shift does not happen overnight. It happens through courage repeated consistently. As a stories expert, I have witnessed how brave women transform suffering into meaning. They stop asking why life was unfair and start asking how they can grow stronger. They recognize that pain refines character in ways comfort never can. Every disappointment forces self-discovery. Every setback demands adaptability. Every emotional wound deepens empathy. Instead of becoming bitter, she becomes better. Instead of closing her heart, she learns discernment. This is not accidental growth, it is intentional. There are moments when the weight of her experiences could easily make her retreat, but she chooses to rise with awareness. She uses what she has lived through to fuel purpose-driven action. Pain becomes the reason she speaks up, stands firmer, or supports others. What once isolated her now connects her to people who need understanding and leadership. She realizes that strength gained through struggle carries credibility. No success story without hardship ever could. The most powerful transformation occurs when she stops seeing herself as a victim of circumstances and starts recognizing herself as a woman shaped by experience. She understands that pain, when processed wisely, becomes power. It sharpens intuition, strengthens resolve, and builds emotional intelligence. Her past suffering no longer controls her narrative. It supports it. She walks forward, not despite what she endured, but because she endured it and emerged with purpose guiding every step. A brave woman reaches a moment when she realizes that the most dangerous labels are not spoken aloud by others, but quietly accepted within herself. From the outside, society is quick to define her by her mistakes, her circumstances, her relationships, or her background. These labels are often delivered casually, yet they carry the weight of judgment. Here is the hook that shifts everything. A label only has power if she agrees to wear it. The moment she questions it, its grip begins to loosen. As a stories expert, I have seen how courageous women refuse to let borrowed opinions become permanent identities. She recognizes that being misunderstood is not a failure. It is often a sign of growth. Instead of spending her energy trying to correct every false perception, she redirects that energy inward. She begins rewriting the narrative she tells herself. Where shame once spoke, self-respect takes its place. Where doubt once dictated decisions, discipline steps in. This internal rewrite becomes the foundation of lasting transformation. She understands that labels simplify people, but real lives are complex. Being called too much, not enough, or incapable no longer defines her limits. She studies herself honestly, acknowledging both strengths and flaws, and chooses language that supports growth. Words like broken are replaced with becoming. Failure becomes foundation. Weak transforms into learning. This shift is not denial, it is conscious reframing. And reframing is a powerful act of leadership over one's own mind. There were times when those labels felt convincing, especially when repeated by authority figures or echoed through past experiences. But she learned that repetition does not equal truth. She chose to measure herself by values instead of verdicts. Integrity mattered more than approval. Progress mattered more than perfection. This decision freed her from the exhausting cycle of proving herself to people who had already made up their minds. The moment she stopped living under imposed identities, her presence changed. Her voice became steadier. Her decisions became clearer. She no longer introduced herself through what went wrong, but through what she stood for. The world eventually noticed, but by then, she no longer needed validation. She had already claimed her identity on her own terms, and that quiet confidence became her strength. A brave woman understands that transformation is rarely dramatic and almost never instant. The world often celebrates sudden success, but real strength is built in quiet, unseen moments. Here is the hook most people overlook. Consistency is a form of courage. She does not wait for perfect conditions, motivation, or recognition. She chooses growth in small, deliberate ways, knowing that who she becomes is shaped by what she practices daily, not by what she promises occasionally. As a stories expert, I have seen that brave women are not driven by applause. Many of their strongest decisions are made in silence, when no one is watching and no one is cheering. She shows up for herself on ordinary days, especially when progress feels slow. She honors commitments even when the results are invisible. This discipline becomes her quiet advantage. While others wait to feel ready, she moves forward with intention. trusting that readiness is built through action. There are days when doubt visits her unannounced, days when exhaustion tempts her to quit or settle, but instead of giving in, she returns to her purpose. She reminds herself that growth does not demand perfection, only persistence. Each small choice, choosing learning over comfort, responsibility over excuses, patience over frustration, adds another layer to her strength. Over time, these choices compound, creating change that looks sudden to outsiders but was earned slowly. She also understands that unseen growth still matters. Just because progress is not recognized does not mean it is not real. Confidence deepens quietly. Character strengthens privately. Habits reshape identity long before success becomes visible. She resists the pressure to rush her journey or compare her pace to others. Her focus stays on alignment, not validation. This inner steadiness protects her from burnout and keeps her moving forward with clarity. Eventually, the results begin to show, not as noise, but as presence. Her words carry weight. Her actions reflect stability. Her confidence feels grounded rather than forced. By choosing growth day after day, even when it went unnoticed, she built a version of herself that could not be shaken by opinion or circumstance. This is the power of daily commitment. It turns quiet effort into unbreakable strength. As I bring this story to a close, I want to leave you with one final thought. One day, your past will no longer be the most interesting thing about you. Your growth will be, your discipline will be, your impact will be. So decide today, right now, that you will not be remembered as someone who was defeated by where she came from, but as a woman who stood up and said, "My story is still being written." And then step forward and write it boldly.